I used to think that having power meant like having control, and really control over outcomes or over people or how my life would unfold. And when I didn't have that power, like I just assumed like, I guess I don't have any power at all. But here's what I learned. Real power, it doesn't come from control at all. It comes from the choice you make, your presence, from the showing up fully even when life's a mess, using your gifts day to day to make an impact on others. And that's what I want to talk about today, helping you spot and use the kind of power that you already have, especially in the moments where everything maybe feels a little bit messy to you. And so I want to dive into that deep for you. Now, welcome everybody, of course, to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake, and I'm glad that you're able to join me. Now, can I ask you something that might ground this a little bit for everybody? Have you ever had that, time in your life, that season where it felt like life was just happening to you, like happening around you, like you're constantly reacting, constantly behind, constantly at the mercy of everyone else's decisions and everyone else's schedules? Or maybe it's even more subtle, like you've been showing up for everyone but yourself, and somewhere along the way, like the voice, like your voice within that got quieter. Your needs got smaller, your sense of agency slipped through the cracks. Or maybe you're just tired of feeling like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and yet still feel like there's like none of it's really making a dent in what it is that you want to do. Now, if that hits home for you, then I want to tell you something. This is going to be the video for you. You are in the right place. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not invisible, you're not broken, and you're definitely not powerless in any sort of way, but you are stuck in what I call the powerless confusion. Where you've been taught to focus on everything outside of your control, and you've missed that quiet power that's been sitting in your hands this entire time. And so maybe you're a parent who feels powerless watching your children struggle or your children make poor choices, but you're missing your incredible influence like through modeling and boundaries or emotional presence. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur who felt like, who feels like you're at the mercy of the markets, or customer demands, but you overlook the power to influence through authentic service, through maybe your strategic choices that you have, or the energy that you bring to your business. And you could also just be an employee who's working away, in your 9-to-5, day in and day out, who feels invisible within that organizational structure. But you're not seeing your ability to influence work, like the workspace culture, to build additional relationships, to demonstrate leadership regardless of what your title is. The truth is, feeling powerless and being powerless are completely different things. And I want to unpack that for you today. Now, like I mentioned, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder, I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. All right. This book, it just came out in November, and since coming out, it's become an Amazon bestseller. And I highly recommend you get yourself a copy. Right now, it's not available on Amazon. You get the digital copy for, I think, $2, as little as $2. I think you get the physical one for only 10. Like, that's the best $2 to $10 you can invest in yourself, because it's going to help you to discover your gifts and superpowers, create more influence in the world, more impact, create more value for others, have better engagements, better relationships with people, live a more fulfilled life. I mean, who doesn't want more delight and joy within their life, right? Step into who it is that you're meant to be. So that's what this book is all about. So go get yourself a copy. I'll put a link in the description where you can go get it on Amazon, or pause the video, open your Amazon app, and go find The Giver Method by Jake Talbert. So get yourself a copy today. Now, the reason why it's become an Amazon bestseller, the reason why it has so many 5-star reviews is there's two core things that are really important to people. Number one is that it's grounded in my story. And my story, I've walked a very similar path to you. All right. I'm a parent. I've got 3 boys. I'm an entrepreneur. On top of that, I've worked in that corporate, space, in the sea of cubicles, in that 9-to-5 job, just, with that hum of just corporate life, feeling like another cog in the wheel. I've walked the path you've walked. And so a lot of it resonates really well with people like you. The other thing is that every chapter has action items, exercises. Everything we're going to cover today will have action items and things you can go do. And each one is grounded in the fact that, as a parent, as an entrepreneur, as an employee working, you can't blow up everything to rebuild yourself. You can't just start over. And so it's like everything's grounded in the fact that I know who you are because I've walked the similar path as you. So let's put the action items and exercises that fit into your daily schedule. So once again, go get yourself a copy. Links in the description to the book on Amazon, or just pause the video, go get yourself a copy. Is the best $2 to $10 that you can invest in yourself, for sure. Now, I know for a fact, from some of the stories in the book and everything, I remember when I confused the two things of feeling like I didn't have power, and that these two concepts blended together, the feeling powerless and being powerless. I always confuse them. I thought that power just meant controlling outcomes and having authority over external circumstances. But when I couldn't control everything around me, I really did feel helpless. And it turns out that was just the confusion. It's what I actually needed was to recognize that the real power lies in my ability to choose how I responded to things, how I responded to those moments, the influence on my environment through authentic presence, how I align my actions to my values regardless of what's happening around me. And so this video is all about that. I call it there's this agency awakening for you. Because we're going to wake up your ability to choose and to respond and to influence within your life with true intention. We're going to walk through, I've got 5 of these principles and strategies that are going to help you to stop reacting to the life around you and start really participating in it from a place of alignment and strength. And I want to be clear, this isn't about pretending everything's fine or ignoring real challenges that you have. It's about recognizing that even in hard seasons, you still have options that you can do. You still have impact. You still have a voice that completely matters. These principles are rooted in the GIVER method. They're going to help, it's the same things that I've helped thousands of other people like you step back into alignment, not by fixing everything overnight, but by making powerful choices that are small and doable, moments day to day. Now, if that does click with you and you want to go deeper at any point, once again, that's where you can go get the GIVER method on Amazon. You can also check out thegivermethod.com for additional tools, coaching, community, things like that. Now, if you are looking for more personal support, then you're might be time for you to stop, waiting for circumstances to change and start stepping into your actual power. You might want to go check out the link in the description where we opened up some of our one-on-one coaching spots, and you could check that out, see if it makes sense for you to book a call for us to dive deeper into that and have, someone who's walked the similar path as you helping you along the way. Now, if you, of course, lead a team or you've got a group, a podcast, an event, some sort of a stage where people gather, then, and you're like, man, this type of message would really resonate with my people. It would help them a ton. Let's talk about how we bring it to them. There's a link down there for speaking and podcasting. And of course, now hit subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications so that you don't miss out on any of the future content I have. Like the video, of course, along the way, and leave your comments as we're going, because I love to see what you're taking away. Your voice does matter. So with that, let's just jump in. Let's start uncovering the power that's been, it's been with you all along, and you're just not realizing it. All right, so let's dive in. Let's start going through this. The first principle or idea is you have to understand where your real power lies. There's this idea of your sphere of influence. You've got to focus on what you can actually influence and understand your power territory. When life feels out of control, most of us double down trying to fix everything that's not actually ours to fix. We're trying to fix our kids' behavior, company decisions, the economy, the news cycle, someone else's attitude, and before you know it, you're completely drained. And honestly, you're no closer to any sort of a peace or progress or impact that you're wanting to make. And here's what I had to learn the hard way. Not everything that stresses you out is something that you can control, but that doesn't mean you're powerless in that moment. The trick is getting clear on the difference between what is in your control and what you can influence, and then what's just taking up space in your mind. When you stop trying to control the outcomes that were never yours to begin with, you can start pouring energy into the stuff that actually responds to your input. That's when things will shift for you. That's when you start showing up with your power again. So here's how you do this. Here's a couple of ways you can do this. So first thing, grab yourself a notebook or open up a note, on your note app on your phone or whatever. And I want you to do just a quick power check, where you take one situation that's weighing on you right now, something that feels messy or frustrating or that you're stuck on, and then split the page into 3 columns. And what I want you to do is in column 1, I want you to write about what am I worried about? That's your sphere of concern. In column 2, it's what can I actually influence with my actions, my words, my presence, my energy? That's your sphere of influence. And then the 3rd column is what do I directly control? And that's usually things like your effort, attitude, your focus, the boundaries you set. And then once you have that laid out where you actually can break that down for whatever thing that's weighing on you, here's the next move. Stop trying to win in column 1. All right? That's where the burnout lives. Redirect the energy you would have been in column 1 into column 2. Influence always outperforms an obsession. When you start asking okay, where do I have power here? Instead of why can't I fix this? You get so much clarity and confidence back. If you're a parent, maybe that means shifting from trying to control a teenager to just showing up consistently with calm boundaries and empathy and non-anxious presence. Or if you're a business owner, maybe that's, you stop spiraling about the market and you double down on the quality of how you show up for your clients each week. If you're an employee, maybe it's focusing on becoming someone whose work and attitude create ripple effects even in a larger system isn't ideal to that. Because the fastest way to feel powerless is to focus your energy on the things that you just cannot change. But the fastest way to just rebuild the trust in yourself, start taking action in places where your influence still works. There's tons of data out there. I love having the data and research and stuff from the book and in these videos. So there's tons of research out there that backs this up. People who focus on what they can influence experience less stress, they think more creatively, and they recover faster from any setbacks that they have. Now, the bonus to this is the more you use your influence with intention, the more it intends to grow. People notice, environments shift, and before long, you're creating more change than you thought was actually possible. Not by trying to control everything or do it overnight, but by owning your lane and showing up with real presence over and over again. And then that takes us to the second principle, all right? So you have to reclaim the moment. How you start choosing your response rather than just running on autopilot, okay? There are hundreds of daily moments where you can control how you respond. Most of us go through the day on autopilot. We wake up, we react to kids, we get pulled into a meeting, scroll, stress, repeat, and before you know it, the day is completely gone and we barely remember being in it at all. But hidden inside all of that noise, there are these small, often invisible moments that these are what I call choice points. Where they're just split seconds where you could keep doing what you've always done, or you could choose something better. Not perfect, not dramatic, not crazy, but just more aligned with the person you want to become. These moments might look like, taking a breath before you snap at your kid. It might be pausing before you reply to that email in frustration. A decision to keep your phone down when your spouse walks into the room. They seem small, but they really are everything. They're these building blocks to change, and they're happening all day long. There's so many of these opportunities. So here's what I want you to do. The first step in this is going to be start spotting these moments in real time. Think about the power of pause. Pick one area of your day where you tend to just run on instinct. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's how you handle stress at work. Maybe it's bedtime battles with your kids. When that moment hits, pause. Just one breath, and then ask yourself, how do I want to show up right now? My goodness, what this will do for you. Changes this has had in my life are insane, and I've seen it happen for so many other people. You can also build these choice anchors, which are physical cues that remind you to slow down and choose. Every time you open the door, you get in the car, you sit at your desk, use that trigger, use that thing to pause and check in. It doesn't take extra time. It just brings you back to yourself. I love when I'm on the way driving home from work, and right before I'm going to go in the house, I'd be like, great, how am I showing up as a husband? How am I going to show up as a father? How do I want to be present and more in the moment? It starts to change things for you just by taking thoughts and stuff that I'm already going to be doing and how I'm already going to be showing up. There's all sorts of ways that this is. Now, there's also another practice that you could do, and I love this one. It's there's the choice tracker, where you jot down 1 or 2 moments each day when you responded with intention rather than instinct. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. What matters is that you're showing your brain hey, I have agency. I get to choose here. And the more you notice it, the more it grows. You'll notice these patterns of how it starts showing up more and more and how it's changing in your life. And if you really want to level it up, tie those choices to your values. What would my core values do in this moment? If you value presence, maybe it's, listening fully instead of multitasking. If it's courage, maybe it's to speak the hard truth. If your value is growth, maybe it's that you lean into discomfort instead of avoiding it. This is how real confidence is built. Not from being perfect, but from knowing that you can choose how you show up, even if it's hard. And here's the thing, when you start doing this, others feel it too. Your kids will see it. They see a calm parent, in the midst of chaos. Your team sees a leader who responds, not reacts. Your relationships deepen because you're showing up with intention instead of impulse. And most importantly, you start seeing yourself differently. You no longer are just surviving the day. You're shaping it one moment at a time. You're in so much more control. And that, oh my gosh, is where people feel power. You feel like you're controlling your day. Principle 3, that I want to focus on is all about, honestly, probably the most underrated superpower that you have. Why response is so powerful. It's such a reliable source of power for people. Because if we're real, most of life feels like it's coming at you. The missed deadline, the tantrum at bedtime, the unexpected bill, the client who ghosts you. And those moments, it's super easy to feel like you're just reacting, barely holding it together. But something that I learned, and honestly, it changed so many things for me, and I've seen it change for other people. Like, you cannot control what shows up, just how we respond to it. That's yours every single time. Your response, like, it's not like some second tier backup plan. It's the main way that you shape the kind of person you're becoming. You have to like redo your programming. You've got all this default programming in you, and how you reshape it to be like, wait, how am I going to respond in this? You know, maybe it's a tough conversation. Maybe it's the chance to stay calm when it's easier to snap. Maybe it's a business curveball. Like, that's your moment to lead instead of spiral. A family meltdown, gosh, that's your opportunity to be grounded, you know, in a room with presence. And so here's what I want you to do, some different ways that you can approach this. One of the best ways to start owning this is stop waiting for these things to be easy. Instead, like, you need to prepare responses ahead of time. You know, it's like, gosh, response planning is so important with like trying to become someone different, trying to step into who it is you're meant to be. Ask yourself like what it would look like to respond, you know, in a way that I actually want to before the heat of the moment gets to this, like gets me in that, before the heat of the moment hits me. You know, think about like, okay, usually during chaos or, you know, let's say bedtime routines or deadlines or hard conversations, like you're going to get heated or your brain's not going to be thinking clearly. So map out how you'd want to show up and give yourself the plan to return when emotion spikes. You know, and then think about character-based responses, like meaning like when something throws you off, pause and like, what version of me do I want, like do I want to strengthen right now? The version that breathes instead of snaps, the version that leads instead of complains, the version that speaks from purpose rather than panic. And when you have those a few of those moments, you know, this is where you can start like, did you show up better? Like, start to reflect on it and be like, you know, like, in all honesty, like, grab yourself it could be a sticky note or something on your phone or whatever. Like, it's like, hey, did that response move me closer to the kind of person I'm trying to become? And over time, you start tracking real growth, not just what happened, but like who you were when it did. And it's not about beating yourself up. If you didn't show up the way you wanted, that's okay. Just think about how you could have done it differently next time. Start to reflect on it, practice it. Because like, this is one power that nobody can take from you. You know, you can lose a job, you can face some sort of setback, you could have a hard season, but your ability to respond with presence and purpose and alignment, that is always yours. And the secret bonus is people notice. They notice how you handle pressure. They notice your steadiness in that chaos, and they trust you even more. Not because they're perfect, but because like not because you're perfect in any way, but because like you're being consistent, and consistency is what creates so much trust for people. It's what builds leadership and character and influence over time, not just titles or circumstances, but how you showed up in the middle of all of it. Now that takes us to the fourth principle, all right? Now this is, I talk a lot about there are three currencies of lifetime: energy and money. Like, energy is a currency, and you got to spend it where it counts. You got to understand that, you know, where you direct mental and emotional energy is entirely within your control. There is a strategic power of this sort of energy management. You know, we don't always notice it until we're completely drained, but your energy is one of the most valuable things that you have. Not just your time, but the mental and emotional energy, where it goes. That's shaping your day, it's shaping your mood, your impact, and honestly, it's shaping your future. And here's what most people don't realize, like, you have way more say out there in like where your energy goes than you think. You decide, you get to decide where you put your attention. You decide the conversations that, get your emotion. You decide what problems like rent space in your head. That's power. But most of us give power away without even realizing it. We spend hours mentally chewing on something that we have no control over, or emotionally reacting to someone else's drama, or feeling guilty for not doing something perfect. And by the time that we get to the parts of our life that actually matter, our health, our people, our work, like, we've got just scraps of energy left over. No wonder we feel stuck, burnt out, and overwhelmed. And so here's what I want you to do. A couple of things. The first one is one of my favorite things. It's in the book. It's in so many of my videos. You need to do an energy audit. All right? Where you don't overthink it. Grab a notebook, open up your phone, whatever. And for a day or two, jot down what's been draining you and what refuels you. What are you worrying about that you actually can't influence? Think back to the exercise where we broke it down into columns. What conversations or habits leave you feeling fried? What people, routines, moments like leave you feeling a little bit more like you again? Give yourself that picture of like where you're at. And once you have that better picture of what's helping you versus what's draining you, build your energy budget. Ask yourself, like, where would my energy make the most difference right now? Is it your health? Is it reconnecting with your spouse? Is it creating instead of consuming? Prioritize those things first. not once everything else is done, but before everything else steals your spark. And then, of course, you can also look at setting energy boundaries, which might look like, turning off the news after 10 minutes, or saying no to that, draining commitment that's out there, or muting all social feeds, that make you feel less than you are. It's not avoidance, but but because like your energy is not unlimited, it's worth protecting. So create boundaries around these things so that you can be like, I'm going to shut out these things that would normally take my energy away from me. And then finally, you can sprinkle in these energy multipliers. These are going to be the things that really do give you life. If it's going for a walk, if it's listening to a certain playlist, that reminds you of who you are. You called a friend that gets you. It's, you create something, you serve someone. Like, these don't just restore your energy. They remind you of like, you still have like everything you still have around you. Even if it's a tough day, they build you up, they create energy, they help you be more authentic. These are the things you want to find and really start to pepper more into your day where you can. Because when you learn to manage your energy on purpose, you start showing up in ways that feel more aligned with who you really are. People around you feel that shift. Your kids, your coworkers, your clients, they feel your presence instead of your depletion, and that you feel more like yourself instead of someone running on fumes just trying to keep up. This sort of energy ownership or stewardship doesn't just change your schedule. It changes like your influence in your relationships and the momentum that you're building. It's not selfish in any sort of way to guard it. It's strategic, like, because your energy goes, like, wherever your energy is going, like, that's where your life is going to follow. And then the fifth and final principle is like the power of just being you. And seriously, I mean that. I don't mean it in any sort of like woo-woo sort of concept or whatever. Like, you can increase your positive impacts, like, and the impact and influence you have by becoming more genuinely yourself. How do you approach things from authenticity rather than trying, like, the performance you're trying to put on? Something that no one tells us growing up. You don't have to perform your way into influence. You don't have to shape shift to be taken serious or tone yourself down to be accepted. The truth is, real influence, the kind that actually matters, starts when you stop trying to be what like you think people want you to be, and you start showing up as who you actually are. Let it be real. It's exhausting trying to keep up with a version of yourself that's trying to check all the right boxes, saying the right thing in meetings, nodding along to the stuff that you don't agree with just to avoid awkwardness, or pretending everything's fine when you're running on empty. But here's the thing, like, people feel that. More than ever, they're actually, like, people are craving a real version of you, not the perfect one. They just want real authenticity. I mean, authenticity isn't about being bold or loud. It's about being honest. It's how you carry yourself, like with your values into conversations. It's how you use your gifts without shrinking. It's how you make decisions that feel truly aligned, not just looking for approval. And that's what builds real trust with people. That's what people remember, not your resume, not your status, but how it feels like to be around you. And so what you want to do, a couple things to consider here. Like, first, like, start by checking in with yourself, like doing this like authenticity audit. Like, where in your life are you performing? Where are you filtering yourself too much? Think of work, think of your relationships, even parenting. Are there places where you're walking on eggshells or hiding parts of you that actually matter? The goal here isn't to overhaul your personality, it's to notice like where you're trading authenticity for approval. And then start making decisions through a like values first lens. When you're stuck on what to say yes or no to, like, pause and like, okay, well, which actually feels like me? Not which sounds more impressive, not which one avoids conflict, like which one feels honest. Like, that shift alone, it can change things so much for you, especially in situations where your voice has maybe felt small or silenced over time. And then let's talk about your gifts for a second. Gosh, your gifts and your superpowers. The G in GIVER is all about your gifts and your superpowers. You have things you do without even trying that light other people up. Encouragement, strategy, humor, curiosity, leadership, creativity. Oh, gosh, there's so many of these. These aren't just bonus traits. They're tools that you use to influence, that you're just carrying around with you. So start finding small ways to bring more of those into how you lead and parent and serve and show up in different engagements and relationships. That's where impact goes up and your effort just goes down. It builds so much more energy in what you're doing. It creates so much more like ability to make choices clearly. And then lastly, practice sharing your thoughts in a way that reflects who you are. Not talking about being like not talking about like just being blunt for the sake of being blunt. I'm talking about using your real voice in real moments, at the dinner table or in your next meeting or at your friend, when you're talking to your friend who's stuck, like whatever it may be, like, because when you stop defaulting to some sort of a safe answer, you can create spaces where, you feel true and people feel it and recognize it. When you're influencing through authenticity, then you're not going to be running on fumes. You're not trying to keep like a mask in place. You're leading or parenting or working and living from a place that adds energy back into your life. And you become the kind of person that people trust because they know like what they're getting is real. And even more, you give others permission to do the same. Your authenticity becomes like someone else's mirror. Presence becomes a safe place. And that ripple effect, like it creates impact that's not fake. Like you can never just create that out of nowhere. It's like, no, I'm just showing up this way. And I know that the universe has a way of making other people feel it and start to show up in the same sort of way. Now, I want to leave this with you, like, as we kind of wrap things up. The power that people search for, the power that you've been searching for, it's not something you earn. It's not hiding behind perfect timing or waiting for the life that's less chaotic. Like, it's already in you right now. Even if life feels completely out of your hands. I used to think power meant control, control the outcomes, the situations, other people's decisions. And for a long time, I felt completely powerless because I didn't do that. And as I mentioned, like everything changed for me when I shifted things and I started to realize like real power isn't the control, it's the choice I'm making. About how I respond, how I show up, what energy I'm bringing in, what kind of presence I offer, even when things aren't easy. Every single day, you have these small windows. These choice points that you can use your power through your energy, through your voice, through how you show up for your kids or your team at work, your values. And the truth is, the more that you use that kind of power, the more it grows. The things we talked about, these 5 principles we walked through, they aren't just like self-help tricks. They're not just like mindset things, or whatever. Like they are the on-ramp for taking your agency and your choice back. Stop waiting for permission from somebody. Like stop thinking your influence doesn't matter and start moving like a person that you're becoming. Not just because not just the version of you that's been surviving for so long. If you're a parent, this is how you learn, this is how your kids learn. Leadership doesn't mean control, it means character. That confidence isn't about always being right, it's about being real. When life gets messy, your power still lives in how you respond. If you're an entrepreneur or you're showing up for your 9 to 5 wondering if anything you're doing is making a difference, like this is your reminder that your presence is influence, your authenticity, and authentic consistency beats any sort of like performative hustle every single time. Now, if what we talked about today, if it resonated with you, if it spoke to you and you want to keep going deeper than that, then that's where you're going to get yourself a copy of the GIVER method. The link's down in the description where you can go get it on Amazon. Pause the video if you want, pull up your Amazon app, go get yourself the GIVER method by Jake Talbert. Get yourself a copy. It's not some fluffy feel-good book. It's real-world guide to rediscovering your gifts, your value, and your ability to make a difference that honestly feels, more like you and is energizing, even in the middle of real-life chaos. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, if you're looking for more hands-on support, whether you're stuck in survival mode or buried under expectations, or you're trying to figure out what the next version of you looks like, then I've got a few spots open in one-to-one coaching that you could check out, the link in the description. And if you run a podcast, a mastermind, a team, a stage, whatever, that event, like a space where people gather and you think, man, a message like this could hit home to them really well, then I'd love to connect and you can find that link below where we can see what that could look like. And hey, if anything landed for you today, please drop a comment. I love to hear what resonated the most. Your insights help me make sure that, this work stays grounded and real. And of course, if this video helped, like it, of course, hit subscribe and tap that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any of the future videos that I put out, because I put out videos all week long. And then look, your power isn't something you're missing. It's something that you maybe just forgotten how to use. You're not powerless, even if life feels like it's been a storm lately. You're not invisible, like even though maybe you feel unheard, and you're not stuck. You just need the reminder that your choice is still on the table. You've got way more influence than you think, and the next version of your life, like it starts by you just by what's already inside you and making choices to use those. I promise you it'll make such a difference in your life. I'm cheering you on. I'm here for you. So hopefully we'll catch you in our next video, and have a great rest of your day.